Okay, yeah, I'm back. Coming back to you from the car today because I had to go make some runs again. And forgive me, my boys gear, my Ravens gear, yeah, because both my teams played today, so at one, same time, so I gotta do what I gotta do. When I last left you, video 3, CeCe's aneurysm story, I believe I left off where that nursing home in Laurel tried to kill her, and so she had to go to the ICU, and then they had to do another emergency surgery because when they were doing the heart and the chest compressions, when she couldn't breathe, when the trach got dislodged, her feeding tube became dislodged from her stomach, so she had to have surgery to put the tube back on the inside of her stomach, feeding tube connect. Then, so of course at this point I'm like, no, she cannot go back upstairs to that unit. She has to go somewhere else. So we ended up finding her another nursing home in Annapolis, Maryland. Now this one was a tad bit different from her first one in Laurel. The first one in Laurel was more hospital-y set up. This one, when you walked into this facility, you could swore you could hear "Thank you for being," like I heard the Golden Girls soundtrack opening theme song come on, like they pipe it through the speakers or something. It reminded me of an elderly folks facility or something. I mean, it was really, that's all you saw. They were like, you could tell they just like lived there. Like what Sophia was talking about, Shady Pines was like, that's how it reminded me of. So I'm like, I don't know about this one. But anyway, she was there. It was okay. We were there every day. Myself, my spouse, cousins, aunts, my mother. It was in Annapolis, so it was a bit of a bop for us as far as the drive, but it was all right. It was okay. But all of a sudden, like after about a week and a half, I started noticing that CeCe's eyes would just be bugged like that. I'm like, yo, why is, what's going on? Why is she? And she would keep doing this. She would keep grabbing her head and doing this with her hand when she was not trying to take her trach out. So I'm gonna put the pictures up here where we had to put like a mitten. This mitten is soft mitten. It was like a mitten with like net across the hand and a little soft pillow where she could rest her hand, and we had to tie it on her wrist because I'm trying to get out this bed. Yep, I'm talking about you. You sat up there and put in a whole lot of work to get that mitt off. She didn't have movement now. We know. I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned this. When she came out of the stroke and she was up finally and awake and went to the nursing facility, the first one, we knew that she had limited movement, no movement at all, rather, in her right hand and in her right leg. So her right side had the weakness. So she was not able to move it freely or move her right leg at all. So fast forward or back to where we had to put the mitt on her hand, on her left hand, because that was the one she had free movement and she could do everything with. She still wasn't talking because of the trach, so we didn't know, what she knew here yet. But we did know that she wanted to pull that trach out. So every second, every chance she got, she would get her strength up to grab it. She could have just been feeling, because I don't know how that would be to have a foreign object sticking out of my neck. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't know what she knows. We don't know if she knows what's going on. So she could have just been trying to feel at it to see, what it was. But we definitely didn't want her pulling it out. So the nurses came and said, okay, no, we just put this little mitt on her, and it'll prevent her from pulling out her trach. So she's doing that with her head, with her hand. It's not in a mitt, and she's I thought this guy was ready to take my parking space. I'm getting ready to. I was like, hold up now, wait a minute. So then she takes out, so she's doing that with her hand. It's not in the mitt. She's touching her head, and her eyes are just like bugging out. So when the doctors came in and assessed her, come to find out, CeCe had a buildup of cerebrum fluid. Forgive my terms, y'all. I knew all these things cold back then, but it's been 5 years, so I don't remember the actual names, but it was spinal fluid basically that had built up. Spinal fluid that built up in her brain, and it was just loose in her brain, causing her to have those reactions. It probably felt to her like something was pouring in her brain, and she still has her skull out. It's still not been replaced. So that's another thing. We didn't want her going willy-nilly poking all over her head, because there's no barrier to protect her brain. The doctor assessed her, found out that it was the fluid buildup, and she had to go to the hospital. Now, because we were in Annapolis, made a cameo on Parker's face. Because we were in Annapolis, they took her to Aneurysm Medical, which was like 5 minutes away from that facility. And again, God covering us and showing us favor. That hospital was amazing. It was amazing. Washington Hospital Center wasn't bad, but this hospital was amazing. I love this facility. So that's when we met her neurosurgeon, and the actual doctor she had been seeing even up to last year in outpatient business, Dr. Burke. He was amazing. They assessed her and said she has to have surgery. We have to put another one of those little tubey things, robot things, drains on her head to drain the fluid. So they ended up doing that for some hours. We were there, and she went into recovery. She did okay, and then she was just, in that hospital. And then Dr. Burke assessed her, and once he found out everything that happened and what was going on, he said, you know what we'll do? This does not seem, after they assess the drainage daily, doesn't seem to be slowing or stopping or anything like that. So we're going to have to put a shunt in her head. And I'm like, a shunt? He says, yes, it's a shunt. It's permanent. So they went into the right side of her brain and placed a little plastic draining shunt. And it's behind her ear, and it has tubes that connect down into her stomach and waist out with her waist. So the fluid drains out with her waist. So I'm like, okay, all right, I'm skeptical, but he was a really good doctor. I trusted him. And he said she can live with it. It'll be no problem. It won't interfere with daily life. I'm like, okay. So we said, let's do it. And then he said, and while I'm in there, I'll go ahead and put her skull back, because she does not have any more swelling. I don't see a need for it to stay off any longer. So I'll go into her stomach, and I'll take the skull, and I'll put it back into her head, and the drains from the outside, all of those will be removed, because now the shunt will be taking care of the drainage. So cool. He did that on June 10th, 2015. And it was success. And in this hospital, she didn't have the lopsided head no more. Every time she had brain surgery, which now I can think it was about maybe 4. This is her 4th brain surgery. When they cut into her head, and I'm sure people that have had this done, it makes the swelling happen in her face. So she's got, every single time they went in her head, it looked like she was in a fight. She had bulging eyes and really huge face. And then after days, it will go down. So that's the only thing that she had on as far as appearance after that surgery. There was no more outside drains or anything like that. So she just looked swollen, like she went a couple rounds with Tyson. But then after a while it came down, and you could stop, the bulging eye thing had stopped, and you know, now we have a situation of, I think CeCe was waking up more, realizing something happened, something's going on, and you know, I don't feel right. She tried to pull her trach and look around more, trying to, I guess, getting her bearings to understand what was going on. And the hospital, that's why I love them, while she was there in recovery, they started weaning her off her trach. So for hours on end, you know, throughout the day, they would just disconnect the trach and just kind of let her breathe above the machine, or breathe without any assistance, without any oxygen coming in. And it turned out that CeCe was breathing above the machine, which is a good thing, because she's doing more breathing on her own than the assistance she was getting. So they would do that every day and weaning, to try to wean her off. Well, thank God they did, because a couple days before her birthday in August, CeCe's birthday is August 16th. And so now she had been in the hospital from, like I said, June 10th, and now we're in August, and it's a couple days before her birthday. I get a call in the middle of the night that CeCe took her trach out. She got to that trach. She snatches her trach out in the middle of the night, and the machines get to going crazy. Doctors, nurses come running in. But because they had started weaning her off already, she was breathing pretty much well on her own. And they said it would do more damage to try to put a trach back into her throat, or to put a smaller trach, because they could make them smaller or bigger. To put a smaller one in there was going to do more damage to her throat than leaving it out and just watching her. So now she done pulled her trach out, her own trach out, and she's breathing on her own. And they just kind of sealed her neck, or closed her neck a little, put gauze over it, and we're just observing her. And she did well. She was breathing on her own. She knew whatever this is in my way, and I need it out. So she snatched it out, and she knew best, because she was breathing on her own. I was so scared, but so happy, because that's her, man. CeCe ain't never let nobody tell her what to do, ever, 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 ever. And this proved it. So snatches her own trach out. Now it's a couple days for her birthday. Because she doesn't have a trach in, she still has her feeding tube in, because she's still not able to eat or talk. As a matter of fact, the only thing she started doing was crying. So she was crying a lot, like she didn't understand, like she didn't know what was going on, or she could have been in pain. I don't know, but she would do a lot of crying. And I snuck her in some of her favorite ice cream on her birthday. Just gave her a little bit on her tongue, just so she can have some flavor. And she loved it. She loved it. I think I got video of her opening our card. Like, so we knew, just doing little things and talking to her and giving her things and giving her that ice cream, we knew she was there. Like, she did not know what was going on. It was just, you could tell she was kind of trying to come out of it. And on her birthday, I remember giving her a card, giving her one of her cards, and she's using her left hand, and she's opening it. And even though she's looking at it like she's reading it, we didn't know if she could read or not. We wouldn't know until she could speak. Or follow commands. So Toy, my spouse, and even my aunt were trying to tell me different things for her to do, like take my iPad up there. My spouse was saying take the iPad and have CeCe lift her finger up, you know, 1 for yes or 2 for no when I asked her questions when I would write it on my iPad. And I did that, and I might have video of it. I'm gonna go look for that, because I started seeing her do some things. She could only do it for a split second, and then she would start doing different fingers and all that. Nope, that's 4. That's 3. Show me number 1. There you go, number 1. All right, show me 3. That's 2. Show me 3. 3. Yep. 4. 5. All right. Show me 2. Show me 2. Come on, dog. Show me 2 back. That's 5. Show me just 2. Just 2. Alright, I'll let you rest. But you could tell that there was a connection. You could tell that, okay, alright, she's understanding what I'm saying. So she stayed there until August 21st, my mom's birthday, and then she was transferred to Forestville, which is the nursing home right before the one she's in now. And they were okay, but she was there the longest, and she had some really good CNAs and nurses there. The place itself, I could take a leave, you know, and the majority of the people I could take a leave, but there were quite a few people that looked out for CeCe and loved her to pieces. Still to this day, I get text messages. This was 5 years ago, and she left there 2 years ago, but I still get text messages from one of her CNAs that used to braid her hair for on her own when her hair was grew back, checking on her, and her nurse Frida. So Tanya was a CNA that was really good to her. That would do her hair, would just go above and beyond what her job description said. And Frida, the nurse, loves CeCe. So I think I'm gonna leave it here, so because we can get into Forestville and the things that she had to do as far as the therapy that would have to take place in order to try to get her back to mobile and all that kind of thing. So I'm gonna leave it here. I'm definitely gonna add the pictures, and we'll pick up again for the next part of CeCe's brain aneurysm. Please remember, if you love me, sub me. Please subscribe to this video so that you are notified when I put up another one. Please subscribe to my wife's channel, Author T Styles, to our Facebook channels. Follow us on Clubhouse. If you're in Clubhouse, Charisse Washington, Author T Styles. I'm pretty sure at some point I'm going to discuss this in Clubhouse, because I think this topic is something that needs to be talked about. My wife just showed me last night that it was a representative from the House, a representative that passed away from a brain aneurysm at the age of 42. So, well, with the climate that we're in right now, there's a lot of stress out here, and if I can help to save anybody, you know, from having to go through this, then that's what the purpose of one of the purposes of this channel and this video is. So please subscribe. Definitely be coming back with more videos, vlogs, day in the life of, and more aneurysm stories, more updated stories on CeCe, phone conversations that we have. So you don't want to miss it. All right, see.